So I think at this point it's fair to say that for the Montreal Canadiens fanbase, the majority of them are on board with and they love the Juraj Slafkovsky contract. 8 years long, $7.6 million a year, Juraj is going to be signed on to the Montreal Canadiens payroll till the end of 2033. Awesome sauce right there, baby. The Montreal Canadiens have locked him in. Now, the thing is, when it comes to Slafkovsky, he himself has spoken out about his contract. The Montreal Canadiens have had their press releases and everything in between, but in this video, what I wanted to do was go over some comments made by other Slovak hockey stars as to what their opinions are on Slafkovsky and how this kind of affects the entire nation of Slovakia as a whole. Now, that's a really big thing to go out there and say, hey, this guy's pretty much changing the face of an entire nation. That's wild, but that does happen to be the case here when it comes to Juraj Slafkovsky. So I'm going to give a big shout out over to Eliza Maldi on Reddit, because what they did was they tweeted out an article published by Tomas Prokop in regards to the Slafkovsky contract. If you go over to the tweet by Prokop and the entire transcription there, you can see that the article and the publication is in Slovak, so of course, I'm an English-speaking guy, English-speaking audience primarily, and French-speaking, I would guess, so we can't really understand a lot of what's going on here. But this is why I love this Reddit post by Eliza Maldi, because they transcribed and translated these same comments. Here is what Marian Hossa, Michael Hanzus, Valabik, Farah Harvey, and Wisnowski all had to say about Juraj Slafkovsky's new contract. So, Slovak journalist Tomas Prokop published an article about Slovak hockey players giving their opinion on the Slafkovsky deal, so I thought I could translate it. Again, big shout out over to Eliza Maldi for doing so. This is what Marian Hossa, Chicago Blackhawks legend and multiple-time Stanley Cup champion, had to say about the Juraj Slafkovsky deal. The team trusts Juraj after they had offered him such a great contract and he didn't have a reason to hesitate. It's great for him. It's currently a trend in the NHL to sign young, talented hockey players long-term. Slafkovsky has a tendency to only get better and better. Montreal sees it, so they decided to give him that contract. He has huge potential. He's big and strong. He'll be an amazing player. He's already proving it when he's only 20. I think it's logical that the Montreal Canadiens invested in him for 8 years. Now pause before we continue on with these Marian Hossa comments. Does anybody else see some sort of a similarity there between the profile that Hossa had and what it is that Juraj Slafkovsky could be? When I think about Marian Hossa, I don't necessarily think about the point production or the championships, although of course, he did have those in spades. Marian Hossa was one of the more decorated NHL players in the 2010s in particular, and he was a 100-point guy in his career. But when I think of Marian Hossa and his play, especially with the Chicago Blackhawks, I think more so about his pace. I think about how he was able to fly down the wing and snipe pucks on goal, usually 5-hole. Like, he would catch goaltenders off guard with the speed as to which he would attack the net. He would power forward his way in front of guys and bulldoze his way to scoring opportunities and goals. Marian Hossa, especially against my Vancouver Canucks, was a nightmare. And if Juraj Slafkovsky could form some sort of a profile in his game that has those kinds of elements, then he's going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with too. Big, power winger, Slovak guy, lots of potential in tight, and a lot of playmaking threats in his game too. Slafkovsky, like Hossa, could round himself as a multifaceted offensive weapon. Let's go back over onto these Marian Hossa comments. I think Juraj Slafkovsky is grounded and he has the right people around him. I don't think he'll be satisfied right now, though. He's ambitious and wants to improve. In Canada, there's a lot of pressure on him. He'll want to show everyone that he deserves the money. I'm not worried about him at all. The Habs always believed in him. They didn't send him to the AHL. Who else would you stand by if not your #1 draft pick? It was worth it. He had a strong second half of the year, and he confirmed it even at the World Championships in Czechia. I really liked his drive to the net. Even though he didn't score, you could feel him on the ice. He has a great chance to get even better. And if anybody's going to go out there and talk about Slafkovsky's ability to drive to the net and what we had seen out of the World Championships, of course, I'd say the most qualified individual to do that is Marian Hossa. So, of course, for Juraj Slafkovsky, if we can see him replicate some sort of a career like Hossa's 100 points in a year, Hall of Fame caliber guy, Chicago Blackhawks retired number, multiple time Stanley Cup champion, then Juraj Slafkovsky, be my guest. Just saying. Now, there are some other comments made by other Slovak hockey players. Let's go out there and read what Michael Handzus had to say. Yeah, remember Handzus? He's in this article too. The trend is clear. Teams sign young players with long-term potential as soon as possible. There was probably a worry that he could score 30 or 40 goals next year, and then he would cost a lot more. In the second half of the season, he was almost a point-per-game guy, so the Montreal Canadiens used their opportunity. It's a risk for both parties because both can lose, but if Juraj fulfills his potential, he will be a steal. It's a conservative decision for both parties. He's always had a good head on his shoulders. He's been playing well under pressure since he was 15, and he's dealt with it well. I'm not worried that will change. He wants to prove something. It's visible. There are some other comments made by Boris Valibik. Montreal sees big potential in him, the same as we Slovaks do, so it's obvious why they offered him this contract. For the Canadiens, it makes sense. The GM and the coach are still the same as when he was drafted. Juraj retained their trust even when he was injured. He made a good decision, and he had signed now. Because now, he doesn't have to focus on the business side. All he can think about is hockey. One more, for good measure, there's a comment made by Martin Ferrarvi. Yeah, the Washington Capitals dude. I congratulated him right away. We talked about his contract even during the World Championships. He deserves it. I'm happy for him. I strongly believe that he'll fulfill the expectations and even surpass them. So, when it comes to the Slovak hockey body, it seems like a lot of them are, deservedly so, believing in their guy and happy for their guy. And this is part of the thing that I also wanted to talk about as well. When it comes to Slovak hockey, it was such a big deal when Juraj Slafkovsky was taken first overall, right? Like, first-round picks by Slovakia in the NHL Draft, hard to come by in history. So to see one guy get taken first and then to double down and see a second guy get taken second overall, Simon Nemec, New Jersey Devils. To see that all go down in the top 2 picks of 2022, it was mind-boggling. And it was a huge game-changer for an entire country. Not to mention the fact that Filip Mesar was taken later in that first round, so 3 first-round guys, first and second overall being the highlights. So for Juraj Slafkovsky to get this big money deal so early in his career, it's a testament to the body of work he has had, and it's a testament to the talent that he has shown. So, if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Firstly, about the comparisons that I made of Marian Hossa and Juraj Slafkovsky. How do you feel about those discussions? Do you think it's accurate? Secondly, how do you feel about the comments made by the Slovak hockey people in regards to Slafkovsky? There also is another comment in this Reddit post by Lubomir Wisnowski. Yeah, Wisnowski, remember him? Didn't want to read it, we're out of time. But there are some extra comments there. Article will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read this. Marian Hossa, though, Michael Handzus, Boris Valibik, Martin Verharvey, these guys are all believing in Slafkovsky, as is the entire nation of Slovakia. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire discussion and how he represents this country. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.